Wednesday, January 12, 2022. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us on this edition of the English Newscast on the Republican Television, broadcasting live from Yaoundé. Let's begin this edition of the news with our bullet points. 2 members of the Upper House of Assembly have succumbed to the cold hands of death within 24 hours. Barrister Kmer Henry succumbed to gunshots from unknown gunmen on Tuesday night, while Sylvestre Nya Ondua breathed his last in France this morning. A guest on this edition of the news is a political analyst, Alphonse Otsamzok, who will throw more light on these. The Indomitable Lions of Cameroon have continued to intensify training ahead of their second group game against Ethiopia, slated for tomorrow, Thursday, January 13th, at the Paul Biya's Omnisport Stadium at Olembe. Those were our top stories. I'll be right back. As you heard in one of our lead stories, Barrister Kmer Henry, a senator from the Cameroon's Social Democratic Front, succumbed to the cold hands of death. He breathed his last on the night of Tuesday, January 11th, following gunshots from unknown gunmen. The outspoken legal luminary, who is in several occasions held the Upper House of Assembly to discuss the ongoing socio-political crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions, will be considered for, or will be remembered for his endless effort to put an end to the socio-political crisis and bring peace to Northwest and Southwest regions. The following report has an in-depth of this story.
Your Excellency, we just listened to the head of state in Paris during a talk.
It was a sad atmosphere this morning at PMI, a local hospital in Maitungkwen, Bamenda, Northwest region of Cameroon, where lawyers, judges, and politicians were trooping in to confirm the death of a firebrand Social Democratic Front Senator, Barrister Kmer Henry, who was a victim of an assassination shot on the left side of his heart by unidentified gunmen in the outskirts of Bamenda before being carried to town and dumped at Nkwen. His assassins are unknown, but many fingers are pointing on the separatists who for many instances have been targeting government officials, municipal authorities, politicians, parliamentarians, and senators. Referred to by many as the lone firebrand official, referred to as the second Joseph Wilbur, who for several times held the Upper House of Assembly hostage to discuss the ongoing Anglophone crisis. The late senator and founder of Posterity Law Firm was an outspoken gentleman who had several debates to better reflect the presence of opposition parties, whose constant media outing made him an indispensable ingredient in political transformation process of Cameroon. Despite his stance, he remained held firm to the belief that the conflict could be solved through dialogue and denied yielding to separatist call to leave parliament. Unlike other politicians with a similar fate, he did not leave the conflict zone as he continued to live in the Northwest region before he was shot and sent back to his maker. Barrister Kmer Henry hails from Balikumba, Kutunjia division of the Northwest region of Cameroon, and was the senator of the Northwest constituency. His death has created a vacuum in the Social Democratic Front, the Upper House of Assembly, the Bar Council, family, and entire nation. Investigation is ongoing to uncover his murderers, and the mortal remains is at the Bamenda Hospital mortuary. As you heard in our late stories, our guest on this edition of the news is a political analyst, Alphonse Otsamzok. Good evening, Alphonse.
Good evening, Tita.
SDF militant, legal luminary, and a senator of the Republic of Cameroon has been shot by unknown gunmen in Bamenda. What has become of the ongoing socio-political crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions?
This is a war situation for Northwest and Southwest crisis, because this killing of the senator is going to worsen the socio-political situation in Northwest and in Southwest. It is an action against peace. Killing leaders or killing representatives of our nations is something which is not lawful. It is not to be appreciated. It has to be sanctioned, because by doing this series of killing of leaders and representatives of people, this is no more the Anglophone problems. People that are defending the Anglophone problems have now deviated by kidnapping people, by killing leaders. It's not good at all for the nation and for peace.
6 years into the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions, people have been killed, others have become IDPs, some have been kidnapped for ransom. Who is to be blamed for all these happening in the northwest and southwest?
For many bad things that are happening now in northwest and in southwest, Amber Boys has to be blamed, because when you see the way many women are raped in villages, when you look at different videos where many people are beaten in villages, are tortured, how people are killed like animals, is not acceptable. When you look at how children were killed, for example, in school, when you look at how religious authorities have been killed, and traditional authorities like Fonds, which are very sad people, has been killed, is not good at all. This is not good for Anglophones. It's not good for Southwest and Northwest region. It is to be blamed. If whatever the revendication, it should be done according to the rules of the arts. There are many channels to express the problems and negotiate for discussions with members of government in order to find sustainable solutions.
The killing of a senator at the time when the country is hosting the biggest continental football show, is it a big blow to the peaceful image Cameroon has been putting?
Of course, it is a big blow for the image of our nation. Now that we are holding the African Nations Cup, we have many strangers in Cameroon. All Cameroonians are supposed to conjugate their efforts in order to ameliorate and show a good image. Now, beginning with killings, people, killing leaders, killing authorities, developing a climate and atmosphere of terror is not good for the image of our country. As Cameroonian, which is known as the island of peace and full of hospitality, we are supposed, each Cameroonian, it is the duty of each Cameroonian to do responsible things that will enable to sell the good image of our nation.
Thank you very much. One last word to the separatists.
What I want to say to the separatists is that they must know that in everything there is a beginning and there is an end. Even in a war, when you war or when you get involved in an armed conflict, there is a target, there is an objective. You must be following this objective, which is to negotiate with the government in order to find solution. Doing war for war will just cause damnation, chaos, and destruction.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As you heard in our late stories, members of the Upper House of Assembly and the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, the CPDM, is in tears following the death of Sylvestre Nya-Ondua, who breathed his last this morning in France after a protracted illness. Geraldine Nasser profiles the fallen hero in the following report.
Nya-Ondua Sylvestre is no more. The vice president of the Cameroonian Senate left the political scene this Wednesday, January 12, 2022, as a result of a prolonged illness. Born in 1947 in Fou, he was from the Mefu Afamba division in the central region of Cameroon. He obtained his bachelor's degree in economics in 1969, then entered the National School of Administration and Magistracy in Nam. After leaving in 1977, he was appointed Deputy Director of Economic and Technical Affairs, then was later appointed Deputy General Manager of Cameroon's Land Credit in January 1983. From December 1997 to August 2002, he was the Minister of Environment, Forestry and Protection of Nature. He was also the chairman of the Council of Ministers, who are members of COMIFAC.
We have been working together for almost 9 years in the framework of our parliamentary career, and in these years we were able to appreciate in him a responsible man for the level he was. He therefore had the necessary expertise to lead well the mission.
Entered the Upper House of Assembly in 2013, he represented the constituency of Mefu Afamba Division. He was an activist of the Cameroon's People Democratic Movement in his region of origin.
It is since 2013 the establishment of the Senate that we invested in our party, the CPDM, that we campaigned for our election.
It is rather unfortunate that Senator Sylvestre Na Ondwa was snatched by the cold hands of death in the early hours of this Wednesday, January 12, 2022, in Paris, France, after battling with an illness. He leaves behind his entire family, the Upper House of Assembly, the Cameroon's People Democratic Movement, and the entire nation to mourn him. May his soul rest in peace.
Reflecting and discussing on possible ways to end dehumanizing practices like hypocrisy, homosexuality, polygamy, and many more is the objective of a two-day conference that opened this Wednesday, January 12, 2022, at the Protestant University of Central Africa, organized by students and teachers. The program that started this January 12 is observed under the theme, How to Preserve Humanity. Our staff lady Anne Omeko attended the opening ceremony and brought back the follow report for the news.
Hypocrisy, lesbianism, homosexuality, non-respect of human dignity and rights are some social ill practices amongst others that contribute to dehumanization worldwide. Discussions and reflections on how to curb this cankerworm is ongoing as the traditional interdisciplinary week is organized by the Faculty of Theology and Renewed Sciences at the Protestant University Institute in Yaoundé.
And this faculty, which is one of the first high educational institutions in Cameroon, founded in 1979, has a tradition to organize once a year a week of discussion, a week to reflect on a thematic that is relevant and that is actual to the world. And the theme of this interdisciplinary week is how to preserve humanity, how to develop ourselves, how to satisfy the basic needs of the actual generation by preserving the possibility to the other generation to solve their own problem tomorrow.
Another concern is on how to satisfy the future generation by exploiting nature.
How to develop ourselves, how to satisfy the basic needs of the actual generation by preserving the possibility to the other generation to solve their own problem tomorrow. You know, the world now is tending to more productivity, and when we talk about productivity, we are talking about the destruction, exploitation of nature. But how do we exploit the nature? By preserving the possibility for the generation to have their own needs to be satisfied.
Much is expected at the end of this 2 days exchange to benefit students.
What we have at the end is a publication, so that the student can go back to the books and the article and read and have more in-depth analysis on this theme from a different perspective. Maybe let it be theologically, philosophically, or on the perspective of international relations. And tomorrow we bring in some new perspective from the perspective of technology and health sciences.
During this traditional interdisciplinary week organized under the theme, How to Preserve Humanity, January 12, 2022, much will contribute in accompanying the students to be good examples in the society.
As the Africa Cup of Nations unfolds in the country, some images have been circulating on social media showing football lovers exhibiting uncivic behavior in the stadium, which is indeed deplorable. Diane Nenkam tells us more in the following report.
At a moment when the country of Paul Biya is playing host to the 33rd edition of the Africa Cup of Nations that kicked off this January 9th, 2022, resources are being put in to make sure that visitors enjoy every moment of the encounter. It is rather sad to notice that the newly constructed stadiums will not last longer than the competition itself. Looking at some images circulating on social media platforms, one can see spectators standing on chairs meant to be sat on as the competition unfolds, while others can clearly be spotted stressing to wash feet in basins meant to wash their hands. Looking at these sad images, one can only wonder and ponder if such uncivic behavior is out of ignorance or a deliberate act to destroy state property, which is out to serve all. Determining the nationality of the perpetrators of this uncivic behavior is a puzzle many are yet to solve. It is worth lamenting that the magnificent opening ceremony graced by the presence of the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, and wife, Mrs. Chantal Biya, in the Olembe Stadium, which was indeed a beautiful sight to uphold, was not appreciated by many who do not want to see the stadiums remain in good shape. As the competition is still ongoing, it is but normal for the perpetrators of these acts to immediately disease, so the beautiful infrastructures that they met at the beginning of the games will be the same they will leave at the end of it all.
We now take you over to the southwest region of the country, precisely in Limbe, the town of Friendship, which is hosting Group F of the current ongoing continental football jamboree. This afternoon, Mali triumphed over Tunisia by 1-0, though the Tunisians have protested the victory on the pretext that the officials ended the game 3 minutes before the official time. Meanwhile, the game between Gambia and Mauritania delayed due to the hitches of the first game. A special envoy to the town of Friendship, Limbe, is Kmer Choko, who is on standby for updates. Hello, Kmer.
Hello, Ketran. Welcome to the Limbe Sports Stadium, where we have the F games, and it began today. We are in the southwest region of the Republic. We had the first game, which began at 2 p.m. with Tunisia hosting Mali, and ended 1 for Mali and nothing for the boys of Tunisia. It was the first time that we had to witness the VAR do its job, and we had the first time and the first red card in the competition, which was given in the first game. The second game is just about to begin, but before we get into the second game, I just want to let you know that it was not easy, because we had some issues in the first game with the decisions which the referee took. So we are going to be getting to the second game. As of now, Mali stands top with 3 points, and Tunisia are rock bottom. We have the second game, which is going to pit Mauritania against Gambia. In a few minutes, we are going to be seeing them mount the stage. So just stay tuned, because we shall be giving you details from this end. Reporting live from the inner bowl of the Kmer Sports Stadium.
Thank you very much, Kmer, and that is what is happening over there in the town of Friendship, Limbe. Now, the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon have continued to fine-tune strategies against their second group game to be played tomorrow against Ethiopia at the Paul Biya's Omi Sports Stadium at Olembe in the nation's capital city, Yaoundé. The boys of Antonio Conceição da Silva equally took part in the COVID-19 test this afternoon in preparation for tomorrow's game. The Lions are prepared to grab tomorrow's points in order to guarantee their way to the next round of the competition. The following report completes this story. Head coach Antonio Conceição da Silva is expected to sharpen the team's goal scoring to abilities on their coordination and communication while on the field of play. Team Cameroon, that is currently first in Group A with 2 goals scored, 1 conceded, has the challenge of winning their second match without conceding any goal in order to stand a better chance during the third day and final round of play in the group stage. Besides the training session, the Indomitable Lions were substituted to the traditional pre-match COVID-19 test organized by the Confederation of African Football, CAF. In the meantime, the Lions component for their next outing, Ethiopia, has also taken part in a training session in the annex of the Paul Biya Omnisports Stadium at Olembe in the nation's capital city, Yaoundé. Team Ethiopia, that currently hold no points after losing their first game, will have to work to strategize to win their second match in order to stand a chance to sail through to the second round of the competition. Cape Verde, that currently holds the second position in Group A, has also been bracing up for their match against Burkina Faso, who was beaten by Cameroon during the opening game. The Stallions are also preparing themselves to grab in victory during their second outing. Meanwhile, Coach Antonio Conceição and his boys this afternoon held a pre-match press conference at the conference hall of the Paul Biya Omnisports Stadium at Olembe. During the press conference, the Lions instilled hope and confidence, telling Cameroonians and supporters that they will grab the 3 points against the Ethiopians tomorrow during their second group game. Let's now take a listen to an excerpt of one of the players, Samuel Omgwet, carefully selected by our sport editor, Eme Mokoko.
I know what I can say, but nothing special. You know, tomorrow is another game. It's not the same game like the last one or like the Ivory Coast. It's different game, a special game. But for us, what is the most important is just 3 points. How, I don't know really how we can win this game, but for us, we have to win this game. This is just the most important thing. This really.
For the young player, maybe it's the first Africa Cup, but it's the first Africa Cup with the A team. Before we play with under 23, under 20, and how we manage the pressure. For me, and I think for all the team, we just keep eyes, head, and head in just football. We don't have to see anything, no, just football, just play football. For me, penalty is a clear goal. Abubakar scored 2 penalties, Sadio Mane scored 1 penalty, I think it's clear goal. This is football, it's normal. Thank you.
And still in sport, Nigeria and Egypt are all participants in the Africa football competitions, having met several times in several stages of the competition. Both clubs or both teams again met yesterday in the opening game of Group D at the Runde Arja Stadium in Garoua. The Super Eagles of Nigeria triumphed over the Pharaohs of Egypt by 1-0 to prove their supremacy and readiness to lift high the trophy of the 2021 Continental Football Jamboree, as Ruth Fonyong tells us in the following report.
The Eagles of Nigeria, 3-time winners of the African Nations Cup, tackled with the Pharaohs of Egypt, 7-time winners of the AFCON this Tuesday, January 11, 2022, at the Estadio Runde Arja Stadium in Garoua. This was during an encounter that many say will be the biggest game in this AFCON 2021 bonanza. The Eagles have participated in the AFCON tournament 19 times and they are on the way to win their 4th trophy, while the Pharaohs are making their 23rd appearance. Both teams are looking forward to the FIFA World Cup in Qatar as they already qualified for the next round. Nigeria beat Egypt 1-0 to demonstrate that they are ready to win the Africa Cup of Nations. Egypt went into their first Africa Cup of Nations match with high hopes, boasting a magnificent asset in the shape of Liverpool striker Mo Salah. Egypt just about edged Nigeria on possession until an hour into the match when a great opportunistic dramatic Iheanacho goal put Nigeria ahead. They never looked back after that, making repeated fast-paced runs and running Egypt scared. Kelechi Iheanacho's excellent first-half goal handed Nigeria a deserved 1-0 victory over a low-par Egypt in their Africa Cup of Nations Group D clash in Garoua. He crashed a half volley from the edge of the box into the top corner after 30 minutes to settle the contest. The Egyptians were unsettled by the early loss of right back Akram Touafik to injury inside the first 10 minutes as he appeared in distress as he was helped off the pitch. Egypt had one chance in the second half when Nigeria's defense seemingly thought Salah had been caught offside, but the Egyptian maestro could not leave the ball over Maduka Okoye. In a battle of the captains, he was frustrated throughout by Watford's William Trust Ekong. Nigeria's substitute Chidera Ejuke could have cemented his country's win in the final minutes, but his length of the pitch break was hit straight by El Shenao. Nigeria now sit top of the group, followed by Guinea-Bissau, who were held to a goalless draw by Sudan. Egypt play again on Saturday.
And we now take you out of the country where black activists say the time for pretty speeches is over and they need an action plan from Biden on voting rights. A conference was held on Tuesday, January 11th, 2022 at the Atlanta University Center. Our intern, Brian Kwando, completes the story.
President Biden and Vice President Harris delivered speeches billed as major voting rights addresses Tuesday in Atlanta. Most of Georgia's top voting rights activists were missing in action. Gubernatorial candidate and voting rights leader Stacey Abrams' office said she had a scheduling conflict, but several other proponent activists boycotted the event in protest of Biden's lack of action on the issue. For many in this new voting rights movement, Biden's speech amounted to politics as usual in the face of an onslaught of voting restrictions being passed by Republican lawmakers across the country that they say together pose an existential threat to Americans' multiracial democracy. Since 2020 election and former President Donald Trump's unfounded claims of widespread election fraud, 19 states have passed 34 laws enacting new restrictions on voting.
A moment so stark that they divide all that came before and everything that followed. They stop time. They rip away the trivial from the essential. And they force us to confront hard truths about ourselves, about our institutions, and about our democracy.
The time for pretty speeches has passed, said Sir Uford, chief executive of New Georgia Project, one of the state's largest voter engagement group and one that was seen as key to Democrats winning the state for Biden and both Senate seats in 2020. Uford said that instead of another speech about how past generations reached across a political essay to secure voting rights for blocking Americans, what's needed from Biden's now is a variable strategy for protecting those rights.
And that does it for this edition of the news in the Queen's language. Desiree Trezombune will be with you at 8 p.m. for the news in the French language. Meet you tomorrow 6 p.m. for another edition of the news. But before then, do have a wonderful evening in the company of our programs. Good evening once more, and God bless you. Thanks for watching.